The New York Times has a business column. It's called Work Friend, and I think it's frequently off base in the advice that they give. Why? It's because they have reporters writing the column, not people with actual business, management, and leadership experience. Here's my take on the most recent advice that they've doled out. I'll put the link to the original column in the show notes. Welcome to the Leadership Career Accelerator, where we help aspiring leaders like you build executive presence, influence with impact, and get recognized and promoted. I am longtime CEO Barry Moline. The first issue is someone who was fired for a racist joke. Now, here's a summary of the question and the answer, and then my take on it. So the question is, an employee at a small retail store was fired after joking to a Latino coworker that he ran so fast it was like ICE was after him. Inappropriate joke. In that workplace, the boss and the staff frequently told racist jokes, sexist jokes, homophobic jokes, anti Semitic jokes, and everyone seemed to participate. The employee, as he's writing, accepts that the firing was legal because he's in an at will state, meaning you can be fired pretty much for anything. But he still feels that it's unfair to be punished for crossing some line that management has never enforced, and others cross the line all the time, including the boss. So, was it fair to single him out? The response that the New York Times gives is that they say that the firing followed written rules, that it was procedurally fair, but it likely wasn't substantially fair if others, including the manager, routinely made similar comments without any consequences. So the coworkers may have felt pressured to laugh along with the boss when he was making those jokes. And there may be this unspoken line that this joke crossed the line by referring to a real threatening event as opposed to another kind of joke that is just generic. This one reflected the actual news of the day. And then the Times says in an at will system, there's little recourse. So their advice is at your future jobs, protect yourself, steer clear of racist or offensive banter. And since you don't know where the line is for joke making, don't engage in it. Build camaraderie in other non harmful ways. I think the Times really blew it on that advice. Let's be clear. The guy was fired for telling a racist joke, but the boss frequently told racist jokes. After telling that joke, there was no warning given, like, hey, we don't allow that here. And if you do that again, you're out. And then, of course, writing it up, sending an email, documenting it in some way that this employee crossed the line, but also giving that employee a warning that if that behavior continues, they will be separated from their employment. So, no written follow up. We know these kinds of jokes are always inappropriate. But when the leader is making similar jokes regularly, they're actually modeling the behavior. The boss needs to change their behavior as well. I think they should get an attorney, he should get his job back, and he needs to quit making inappropriate jokes. I'd like to hear what you have to say about it as well. The second piece of advice they give is on a situation where somebody writes in that they're stuck at an entry level in their job. Here's a summary of the question and answer and my take. The question is a 29-year-old American architectural designer is living in Milan, Italy, and they followed their dream to live there. They got a Fulbright to get a master's degree, and then they got a series of low paid internships. And now she has a modestly paid full time job that feels boring and isolating with little real design work and limited professional growth. But she says her stay in Italy is great because she's got a beloved boyfriend and she has close friends. So she feels stuck between this joyful personal life and an unfulfilling, underpaid career that she wonders should she stay in Milan for love and lifestyle or leave for better professional prospects and financial stability elsewhere? Is there a middle path, she wonders? So the Times gives an answer that says, from the outside, your Italian dream looks enviable, this gentle, low pressure job in a beautiful country with good friends and an amazing boyfriend. But still, her frustration and ambition are real, and you've got to recognize that. They do say that careers unfold over decades and not months. So a year in a new job is really too little to evaluate whether or not it's the kind of thing you want to stick around for. You've got to look at the whole picture. And then the Times gives the advice that to treat this opportunity as give it 1 year and then evaluate it. If you land a better job somewhere else in Italy, then that's a good thing. Maybe you can get another job in Europe. See how things go. And if at the end of this opportunity it's not working out, you can go back to the US. No shame. You're still young and you can still build a life there and potentially with another boyfriend. That's the New York Times advice. My take is a little bit different, and that is that the writer is 29 years old. She's well trained from school and internships, but she's unhappy doing this administrative work and not senior design work. Okay, she's new in the workforce. When you're new in the workforce, you don't get the top level jobs. That's the world of work. In my career, I would say that I loved 20% of my work, and 80% was somewhere between okay and drudgery. I lived for that 20%, and I did what I could to do more of that 20%. So it's good to aspire to the loving part of your job, but that's just not reality. What she needs to do is go to her superiors and tell them what she's capable of. Hey, I can do design work. I've got a degree in urban design and I'd like to do more of that on whatever project that's available. So just letting your superiors know of your interest will invite them to think of you differently. And when an opportunity arises, she will be top of mind to them. I think it's really important in an entry level job to remind your boss what you are capable of and what you want to do because the boss doesn't think of you all the time. So you have to tell them, hey, I could do that. I could do this. Years ago, I was working in an entry level job and there was a project that opened up to work in Alaska. And I went to my boss and I said, I would really like to work on that project. And he said, let me think about it. And I waited 2 weeks, didn't hear anything. And then suddenly my boss's boss came into my office and said, that Alaska project? We'd like you to work on it. Bada bing, it happened. Why? I think it happened because I told my boss that I really wanted to work on it. Do your best to make an impact where you can. If you have a question or want some work advice, send me a note at leadershipcareeraccelerator@gmail.com.